Today's this is somewhat unique for me. I mean, this is only season 1 of the podcast, but of all of the guests I've had on, you are the first one that this is the first time we're actually talking or meeting. Let's get to know human dad, normal person Ryan versus just the positive leader Ryan.
That's fun. Let's do it.
All right. A sample at Costco you can never pass up.
I am a Costco fanatic. In fact, I talk about it in my keynotes. I share them as an example of like great brands. And Charlie and I go almost every Sunday. And I would say I really can't resist any of the samples. Like I'm that guy. Like they're all like I have to try them all. But I get really excited around like cheese. I get excited about treats, like maybe a sweet or something. I get excited about. I'm a big appetizer guy. Like if it's like an appetizer, like a cheese stick or something. There's the cheese thing again. So
cheese.
Yeah, I love Costco samples. Great first question.
Cheese and treats.
Yeah.
All right, a song you blast in your car to start your day off right.
Well, I'm a big Christian music guy, so I listen to a lot of just inspirational music. I listen to Elevation Church. One that I've been listening to recently is called Turn It Around. So that's a good one. I love Do It Again. I think that's by Elevation. Non like Christian songs though, probably like I love Eye of the Tiger. Like that gets me going pretty good.
Nice.
Eye of the Tiger. People ask me all the time, like, what's my walk-up song? And so I pick Happy by Pharrell Williams. In fact, anytime that comes on, my son says, "Oh, that's Daddy's speaking song." So.
Oh, I was so hoping you'd say your son would be like, "And now, Ryan."
No, he's not quite at that. He's not old enough, but he probably will.
That's funny. All right. A theme park food you can never eat again because you had too much of it.
Well, we can get into this later, but my first job is at a theme park and why I probably am in hospitality.
I did know that.
So I would say I've had my share of funnel cakes at this point. And I don't know that I would want another one. I've had that many and I've made a lot of them. Like I was the one preparing them.
Oh yeah. It's one of those things. Is it one of those things when you see how it's made, you can't really.
No, I wouldn't say it's just how I made it. It's just, we're talking thousands and thousands and I don't know how many I've consumed, but I've just been around it so much. It's like, I'm okay. I'm good. Whereas awesome. I know people like go to Kings Island. That's the park I worked at for the funnel cake.
Just for it. Yeah. An adventure you can't wait to experience with your son one day.
Oh, that's an easy one. I want to go to every ballpark. I'm a huge ballpark guy and I've gone to roughly half myself. And so I can't wait to start checking them off with him.
A parenting problem you're trying to solve right now.
So many. Charlie's 3.5 and people say all the time, terrible twos. Nope. It's terrible threes. I am trying to solve how do I get this little person to listen to me? That's really where we're at. Like, how do I get him to not do the opposite of what I ask him to do? How do I get him to not tell me no over and over and over? How do I get him to not say words that he's not supposed to say and he knows he's not supposed to say them? Like stupid. No idea where he picked it up. I'm assuming daycare, but everything is stupid right now.
Yeah, it's in a lot of movies, kids' movies too.
Yeah, we really limit screen time, but I'm sure he's picked it up there too.
All right.
Yeah.
A job you would be terrible at.
Lots of jobs I would be terrible at. I would be terrible at being a doctor because I cannot handle anything blood related, broken. Like my stomach flips. I could never do that.
Okay. Your go-to way to rest your mind or decompress other than sleep?
Baseball games. Like I miss, that's what I live in South Florida now, but most of my life I lived in Cincinnati, so I'm a huge Cincinnati Reds fan, and I would go to dozens of games every summer by myself just because I love the ballpark for that. Like that was my kind of my place.
Nice. Did you watch the home run derby?
I did. Yeah.
Did you see that Cal Raleigh's dad pitched?
Yes.
He hit and his son, isn't that cool?
Yeah. And I would say it's so cool. And probably one of my best, my favorite baseball memories and live was I went to the home run derby when the All-Star game was in Cincinnati, and Todd Frazier, who played for the Reds, he won it. That was such an electric like moment. It's like one of my top 3 baseball memories.
I bet. All right. A surprising talent or skill?
Well, I'm not going to tell you one because you're going to ask me to do it, and I'm not going to do it. I just won't do it. But I do a pretty good dolphin noise. Like my son loves it, but I'm sorry, I can't. I won't do it. Like I just won't do it on air. Maybe in person sometime. So that's a talent. That's probably it. If I ever got if I ever got in a weird situation where we had to do that, like in a little group setting, that's normally my go-to. And
you would do a dolphin noise. Yeah. I'm going to make it my mission to I'm just kidding. I'll respect that. All right. One more for you. What is an early memory you have of falling in love with hospitality?
Working at Kings Island. That's when I knew like this is something I really enjoy. That was my first job. I was 16 and I loved it every day, just going to work and like working the cash register and like getting people. I worked in food service and I loved getting people their food and everything about it. I loved coming in. I was a morning person, so I would come in before everybody else and get the food stand ready. And I was the only one there. And I loved like cleaning and like, I just loved all of it. And I knew there was something to that pretty early on, even through college when I thought my dream was always to be a news anchor. And that's what I have my degree in. I wanted to be a news anchor. I was the kid at my house that would look in the mirror and read the news as a kid, but I just found so much joy in working every summer at Kings Island and I loved it. And that's out of college. I kept going back to that in my mind. Like, what was it about it? And that's kind of where I ended up finding my way into hotels.
Nice. Did you used to practice your news anchor voice?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think I had a lot of different variations of it, but for sure. Yeah. The other thing I used to do in kind of relation to that is I would stand on the other thing I dreamed of doing was being the ballpark announcer at the Red Stadium. So I would stand at the top of the stairwell in our house where there was some acoustics and I would do the Reds batting order all the way through. Aww. Now batting, Barry Larkin, like that was fun for me.
That's so sweet. Maybe it can be a bucket list.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Item for you. A guest batting announcer. I heard you mention recently, I listened to the wonderful and recent conversation you had with Christine Trippi on her podcast. And you mentioned that your parents were really powerful models of heart-centered leadership. So I was curious if a specific memory or moment has stuck with you.
I think a lot of it was just my entire family and my upbringing in the Midwest. The Midwest, a lot of Southern hospitality roots there, especially as, I lived in Cincinnati, which was basically the South. I mean, Kentucky's right there. And I just have so many memories of our home always being clean and welcoming, and my mom being very like intentional around that. I'm grateful. Like I grew up in a generation where we did not have cell phones. So people would stop by unannounced. Like you didn't know they were coming. Where now it's like, hey, I'm 5 minutes away. I'm 2 minutes away, like down to the minute. And I just remember the excitement around someone being at the front door and it being totally unexpected. But when it happened, my mom always being hospitable and offering whatever we had. So that is a memory that I am really thankful for, that I grew up at a time where people just show up unannounced.
Yeah. It seems like between that and then what you were saying about Kings Island, that from a really early age, you got to experience the joy and nobility of serving and hosting and anticipating needs,
Mhm.
and guests in your home can be similar to customers.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. That's been a through line for me.
Yeah, it's one thing wonderful that it comes naturally for you. And I know that you know this firsthand from your leadership experience. Man, it is hard to teach that to someone who has never
Yes.
experienced that from a young age or from a formidable age.
Yeah, it is very difficult.
I love when I received a copy of your book in the mail. I love that you put on Frontline Teams in the title. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it because you could absolutely have put Uplifted, the remarkable power of positive leadership.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, was there intention behind that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, my mission at this point is to level up the experience for frontline employees around the world. I say that all the time. After 25 years of managing hotels and other, I worked at Kings Island. I actually did food and beverage for the Cincinnati Reds for a couple of years right out of college, but always working with frontline employees. And I just have such a heart for them because I think it's fascinating when you look at some of the world's biggest brands that are known for customer service and how their customer service is being delivered by frontline employees, vast majority of it, and how we entrust our entire reputation as a company into frontline employees. And they are dealing with things that a lot of folks never want to deal with. And they're coming from all walks of life. It is the most diverse workforce. You just take a hotel, for example, and you have such a wide variety of folks and disciplines, housekeepers, dishwashers, front desk agents, bellmen, and all there for very different reasons. One employee, this is their job. This is their livelihood. The other person, it's their part-time job and they're in college. The other person, they're retired. They just want something to do. I'm fascinated by all that. And one of the things that I just really believe and really Uplifted is about is just the person that impacts that group of people the most is really two people: the general manager or store manager in different cases, whatever that position's called, and their direct manager or supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really just fascinated by the frontline employee workforce and just such a heart for them.
Do you think that leading frontline teams, or in what ways do you think leading frontline teams is more unique, more different, more challenging than, a traditional leader in a, quote unquote corporate environment?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of different ways we could unpack that question, but what I would say is what I really am passionate about and spend a lot of time on, and how important it is to help employees feel valued and respected and appreciated. I think that's universal. But I would say the frontline employee is different. It's definitely kind of for the reasons I explained, like, the executive or the manager who's leading a sales manager at a technology company, for example, is dealing with a different person than that person who is maybe just doing this as a part-time job, or it's just a different type of motivation for why that person shows up. And so how do you motivate that person? And in the hospitality industry and customer service facing jobs, a big part of this conversation is wage. And most of the time they're making living minimum wages. And I was very aware as a general manager, and even before that, that the folks that were working for me, and it happened and it still happens, would go down the street to the other hotel or the other restaurant for an extra 50 cents an hour. That was enough of a motivation for them at that point in where they're at. And I couldn't control their wage. Like I wasn't the owner. I wasn't the manager of the company. So I really hated that. Like I hated that I, had a great person, but I was going to lose them to that 50 cents an hour. And I knew that my work environment would be better. So I really honed in on that, and how I really felt confident and feel confident to this day. It's what I preach, is that if you create a place where people feel valued, respected, and appreciated, and genuinely enjoy coming to work, you can keep them from going down the road for that 50 cents an hour. And managers in the hospital and customer service jobs wear a lot of hats, like so many hats. And it's not just the same task, and every day is different. And so I would tell my leaders all the time, look, we wear a lot of hats, but the most important responsibility we have every day, our sole mission is to create a place where our employees genuinely want to come to work. If we can get that right, then everything else, that's the foundation, that's the baseline. And then everything else is on top of that. So I think, it is different.
Yeah. In your book, you mentioned the word policy. You don't like it. It's like the P word that you don't like. Yeah. There were a couple of, I don't know if you were aware, but like words that start with P are a prominent, like they're woven throughout your book. Obviously positive, and obviously you don't like the word policy, but the first chapter that I came across where I did what I need to come up with a way to articulate this moment when I read books, but it's like the audible yes, okay. And I'm like circling and highlighting it. Kind of like when you're in church and like the preacher speaking and something happens enough to where someone's like, hey, like out loud, yes. Yeah. That was when you talked about privilege. Mm-hmm. When you talked about privilege. Mm-hmm. And it seemed to be, or at least it seems to be, a very central part of your philosophy. So I would love to hear from you, just unpack, what does that mean? Yeah. Leadership is a privilege.
Well, in the spirit of the what we're talking about, the frontline employees especially, everyone was coming from different things every day and we all deal with different things. And so, in the book, there's a balloon. And in the book, I talk about this idea that balloon theory. And it was this idea that I imagine everybody carries with them an invisible balloon. And that invisible balloon is representative of how someone's doing. And everybody's balloon is at a different level. And this is not just in work, this is in life. So it's, across your entire day. But I just knew, like, because I was dealing with different stuff. Like I was coming into work with different stuff and nobody knew. Like, you're dealing with something right now that I have no idea. Your listeners right now are dealing with things that other people have no idea. And so I just thought, wow, like if I could, every interaction with each person, if I could just put a little air in their balloon, like I'll be accomplishing what I'm trying to do, which is to make people feel valued, appreciated, enjoy coming to work. That was kind of my approach. And it still is my approach. Like even when I'm in the grocery store, if I interact with someone, I'm like, all right, what can I say or do to help this, their balloon be inflated a little bit? Yeah. And you definitely don't want to deflate someone's balloon. And a lot of bosses do that. They're deflating balloons left and right. But the leadership is a privilege to me, is that as a general manager, as a manager, whether you're managing one person or 1,000, you get to do that. Someone gave you that opportunity. You don't have to do that. And I think that is a major gift, that you are in a position where you get to impact someone's 8 to 10, 12 hours a day. People spend more time at work than they do at home, more time with their coworkers than their family. And you, as that person, are impacting whether or not that person wakes up in the morning and their head comes off the pillow and they're thinking, do I want to go to work today or I don't want to go to work today? And the answer is somewhere around, do I like my boss? And so that's a pretty cool thing. And I wanted people to wake up in the morning and want to come to work. And I also believe that, especially in customer service jobs, like I don't know how do you provide good customer service if an employee doesn't enjoy their job. I don't know about you, and I'm going to study this one day. It's on my list of things I want to research. How many customer service employees do we interact with on a daily basis in our lives?
Oh, wow.
I haven't been able to find that answer, so I think I actually am going to have to do that research myself. And people don't treat and are not generally kind to customer service folks, but yet they're the people that are making our lives easier. And, I think that I forget where I was going with that point, but the point is like, how can you expect people to provide good service if they're not actually liking their job? And I interact with people every day that it's very obvious to me they do not like their job. When I get my coffee at a Starbucks down the road, sometimes I'll interact with an employee that it's like, okay, they don't like their job. They don't want to be here. And so as a manager, I think you have a gift. You have a privilege to impact those 8 to 10 hours a day. And the other thing I talk about a lot in our industries, retail, restaurant, hotel, any service base, that's really cool and is a privilege, is that a lot of times we get to be someone's first boss. Always wanted to remind our leaders of that. Like, I always ask, in my talks, I'll ask, hey, who remembers their first boss? And everybody in the audience puts their hand up. Everybody remembers their first boss, good or bad. And then if I have time, I'll go into the audience and I'll say, tell me about your first boss, and get some really great stories. And there are stories of people that impacted their life and it was amazing. And then there's stories of like, he made me cry. Like and so you get to be someone's first boss. Like, you're going to be remembered the rest of that person's life. You get a really cool opportunity to impact. And I talk about in Uplifted, my first boss at Kings Island, one of my first bosses, really impacted my life. Stephanie is a big reason why I even chose the path that I did. And I am where I am today. I don't think that had I encountered her, that I would even have taken this path of hospitality and ultimately writing and speaking about it. So it's a privilege. I really believe that.
You bring up a really great point with that last story about your boss with Kings Island, is that yes, as someone's first time boss, you're going to be remembered. So you get to decide how you want to be remembered. That is important. But you are also, whether you like it or not, you are in a position to change or significantly impact someone's mindset about work as they go forward in their career, right? If you have a crappy first boss versus having an amazing one, that is going to impact your view on work for a while, if not throughout your whole career.
And that right there, I talk about, let that be your motivation if you're not someone's first boss. Because you may be the first example of what a really great leader looks like. And you could still change that for them. They may have had a history of bad leaders and bad bosses, and now they get to have you. And it's like, oh, wow, this is different.
Yeah. Matt, there's a CEO named Matt Tressiter. He's the CEO of a technology platform called Leader. I've heard him say, and I hope I don't butcher this, I've heard him say, leadership is a burden, but the burden is a privilege.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're right. It is a gift that you have responsibility and power to be a really thoughtful steward of. Because that 16-year-old who's, working the drive-through at Wendy's, how they interact with you is going to impact what they're like when they're 23
Totally.
and in college, or they're a manager at a restaurant, or they've gone up, and if they are seeing negative things, sometimes we can have negative bosses though, and it can actually, I mean, you have many examples of this in your book, I do too, of negative bosses, and at the time we hate that season of life, but in retrospect it's because they're the examples of, well, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So even though we don't like those, if you look back, it's like, man, actually that might have been a blessing for me to have experienced, because now I know what not to do.
Totally.
Can I go back to the metaphor of the balloon?
Of course. Yeah.
So you said your job as a leader, or your, not even job, like responsibility, the privilege, is you get to put air in someone's balloon, is what you said. Mm-hmm. Staying in the metaphor, putting air in someone's balloon, what is the air?
The air can be anything. It can be a compliment, a job well done. I really appreciated you taking care of this. It's this morning, it's telling my wife that I really appreciated that she took Charlie to the allergist this morning when I couldn't do it. It's at work. It's, thanking someone for staying a few hours later. It's, and you gotta be careful with some of this, but you look great today, anything, any kind of compliment. I like your new hairstyle. Like, there's just so many, it's not difficult, and it's very simple. And I often will get asked, I was asked yesterday by someone, like, how do you do this? How do you go into an environment and change it? And how do you change the culture and you turn it around? And I literally say it's one person and one balloon at a time. Like, just every little, you can't look at it as this beast, because it is a beast. You just go one interaction at a time. And I just thought, that's how I'll do it. I'll just, every person, every time, I'll just make sure I'm just encouraging, and you never know, what that little piece of encouragement could be exactly what that person needed at that moment in their life. So to me, the air is really just whatever encouragement you can do at that moment.
As you were explaining, after your initial response to that question, that word came to mind. Yeah. So it's encouragement.
100%.
Encouragement. I love that. And so much, I'm like, man, because that actually is quite a bit. Because I was going to say, well, what about positivity? What about confidence? Like empowerment? But all of those things really do funnel through. Like, encouragement is the vehicle through which somebody feels those things. Yeah. Encouragement. The power of encouragement. Okay, another profound P word. Another moment in the book where I was like, yes.
Okay.
And then a huge question mark was presence. When you talk about the power of presence, and why I loved this is, for some reason, I am always drawn to what I call, and hear me out on this, what I call unsophisticated common sense philosophies and principles. Like, unsophisticated common sense, meaning it's not some new crazy silver bullet. Mm-hmm. It's something that's so profoundly obvious, but is fundamental to what every single human being needs. And this power of presence, I think, is one of those. However, you talk in the book that there's some misconceptions around what it means to actually be present.
Well, I talk a lot about how, as leaders, we need to know a little about a lot. And I think great leaders embrace what they don't know. And you and I both have a hotel background, and I talk a lot about in hotels how I can't think of too many industries where you have a general manager that has to manage such wildly different skill sets. Accounting is way different than the culinary department and the chef and what he or she goes through.
Yeah.
And what the culinary department is dealing with in their skill set is wildly different than the sales team. And there's 6 more examples of that. So I had general managers that pretended to know everything. And you cannot possibly know everything. And then I had general managers who really embraced what they didn't know. And I think that is very, very, I just respect that so much. And I really tried to model that. Like, I want to embrace what I didn't know. And so when I talk about presence and showing up times and places that you weren't comfortable. I found in my experience that it was really about just the fact that you showed up. I talk a little bit about how I had chef coat in my GM office, but I'm not a chef. And it wasn't that I was pretending to be a chef, but the fact that I would throw it on when something was going crazy in the kitchen or we had a big event, and my team knew I couldn't cook. And so it actually became kind of funny, it was a running joke, like, oh no, Ryan's here. But I would, what could I do? Clear dishes, help expo. So I often found, I talk about this in the first book, Thanks for Coming In Today. I often found that when something was hitting the fan and you would show up, 99% of the time they would say, we got it. But you could just tell they were glad you came. Mm-hmm. So I think presence is, and there's, a lot of different ways you can be present, but in that moment, in that situation, just being there and being there for folks and showing that you're not afraid to show up is, in times that could be difficult or things that you don't necessarily have the expertise in, I think is big.
Yeah.
It's under.
Do you think it's fair to say that people can be present, but not present?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. People.
Okay. What do you go on?
Yeah, I think, and it's funny you touched on like having examples of bad leaders, and you're right. Like that, I have plenty of leaders that were present, but not present. Like they were in the room, but were they in the room? And I think a lot of that comes down to being genuine. In fact, I remember I had someone come up to me after a keynote. He said, "You're talking about being genuine and how important that is. How do you do that? How do you be genuine?" And my first thought, and I think this is still my thought, the fact that you're asking me, I'm not sure you have it.
Yeah, that's a tough question.
Like, how do you be genuine? I think, genuine comes from a place of desire, of wanting to be engaged or know or feel or all the things around that, whatever's going on with that person. So empathy is a huge part of it. I talk a lot about empathy. Empathy, I think, is so huge in what we do. Mm-hmm. And especially when you talk about being present.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think of there's so many leaders out there who think present. I see my people all the time. Yeah. And it's like, and I think maybe you go into this a little bit in the chapter. It's like, okay, well, what do you know? But what do you know about them? What's going on with them? Like present in their lives, present in what's going on, present, what you said about being genuine. Like, how do you be genuine? I think it starts with caring. Like when you're with someone, do you have the awareness enough to put your phone down and think, this is an opportunity. Oh, this is an opportunity. I have the privilege of using this as an opportunity to, what's going on with your world? Just to connect and to see them and to because you can think you're present, but the difference between intention and perception may be a little bit off.
Yeah. I've had this conversation many times. I think as we move up the ladder and we get new responsibilities and new titles, I hate titles, but it's a thing, right? People view, like, once you have that title, people are looking at you all the time. And if you're the general manager, you're the general manager. Like, that's the general manager. And so if the general manager comes up and, we have a conversation around my children, and then a few weeks later, he asked me about my children again, don't underestimate that. That is huge in that person's life, that you remembered and that you care enough to ask. That to me is being present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the COO of when I worked at Aimbridge, Robert Berg, fantastic. Still work with him, still love him. He's fantastic. But and I've told him this story so many times, and he probably is tired of me telling him how profoundly impactful this moment was. But I had just got back from maternity leave. The first day I was back, I was driving home from work, and my cell phone rings and it says Robert Berg. And I'm like, what is Robert Berg calling me? Because I didn't report to him. I wasn't on the operations team. He used to ask me to coach him on his sessions at conference. So we absolutely had some interactions, but I thought, man, why is he calling me? So I picked it up. Clearly he was not expecting. I don't think he was expecting me to answer. I think he was prepared for the kind voicemail, but I answered, and it was a 30-second conversation. And all he said was, Heather, I just wanted to I heard you got back from maternity leave today. And I just wanted to let you know that we're really glad you're back.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah. And you're right, because anybody within the organization could have done that, and it would have made me feel awesome.
Yeah.
But the fact that it came from such a senior leader carries so much weight.
Same in the same lane. I write about in Uplifted. I was a new dad, and I was working at TPG Hotels as a VP, and Michael Newbrand was SVP. Actually, I was a GM, so I was a GM at the time. And he had visited my hotel, and in conversation, he learned that I was, expecting dad. And a couple months later, Charlie is born, and we're getting things in the mail and gifts, and there's a box outside from Pottery Barn, and we open it up, and there's this beautiful baby blanket embroidered with Charlie's name, and it was from Michael. And I didn't report to him, and that was so impactful to me, because kind of what you're saying, like that took effort. Like he remembered that and however he did it doesn't matter. Like it was impactful because he took the time to order the blanket. He sent it to me. He had to get my address. And to this day, and Charlie still has that blanket. So every time I look at that blanket, I think of Michael. And I just, those little acts are really special.
Yeah. And, I think if leaders really just almost even challenge themselves, so here's the challenge, anybody listening to this, you will find more opportunities than you realize to create meaningful moments like that. But it takes the awareness of what we just talked about, being present in the conversation and asking them, taking an interest in what's going on in their world. And the moment you flip that switch in your mind to be on the lookout for things that are going on that maybe I could offer some support or encouragement, or, a phone call, a gift, a token of gratitude, you'll start to see those opportunities everywhere.
Absolutely.
Absolutely everywhere. I was so grateful that you have a few chapters around leading through crisis and managing change, because I'm a very positive person. I drink the Kool-Aid, but I know there are people out there that'll be like, oh, positive leadership. Well, what about, positive leadership is easy to do when things are positive, right? Well, so my question to you is, what does positive look like? What does positive leadership look like in not so positive times?
Heather, I think it's a lot of what we've been talking about. I don't know that it's that much different. Presence is a big part of it. And I'm glad that you brought that up. But, I managed through some really tough times. And I think in the hotel world, you do that, right? There's just so many things you deal with. South Florida, some hurricanes, the most difficult thing ever was managing through COVID. I mean, a global pandemic was something none of us ever expected. And being positive through crisis, there's a few things I talk a lot about. One of them is just being consistent. And, there's the initial like shock of something happening, but how, to me, how quickly can you get back to normalcy? And whatever that normalcy is, maybe different, but for instance, going through hurricanes and COVID and things like that, I didn't want to jolt our reality. I wanted to have these, I think I talk about in the islands of certainty.
Loved that.
Like
yes.
things that people could feel comfort in knowing like, all right, this is, so like for me, morning stand-ups were always huge. We weren't going to never not do that. Whether it was 2 people or 10, we still had that. But leading with positivity through crisis, also, I think a big part of that conversation for me is, you talked about the word policy, is my no bad day policy. And this takes effort. It's intentional, but I say this all the time. I think when you become a leader, you give up some basic rights. And I think one of the rights you give up is you no longer get to have a bad day. If you're serious about creating a place where people want to come to work and produce whatever you need them to produce, whatever results, customer service, whatever it is, they have to enjoy it. They have to enjoy coming to work. And so part of that is, you have to be consistent as a leader. And I would tell my leaders all the time, all right, we don't get to have a bad day, at least not in front of our employees. Now I'm not, this is not utopia. Like I get it. We have bad days. In fact, I share specifically, Charlie was born during COVID, and I was managing the Westin Fort Lauderdale, 100% occupancy every day, no staff, ADR rates that were just so low. And so that brought just a whole host of problems that we typically wouldn't encounter at a property like that. And then we had no one to deal with it. It was so hard. It was so brutal. And then I'm a new dad, so I'm not sleeping, and I'm driving 30 minutes to work every morning, exhausted. I did not want to go to work. I did not. But I knew my team was counting on me. I knew I was the GM. I had to be there for them. And so I embraced my no day policy. And I talk about policy. You're right. It's the only policy I ever had. And there was this idea that, I owe it to my team to give them the best version of me every day. And my leaders do too. And so when things go wrong, I mean, all eyes are on you. Mm-hmm. So how you're exhibiting whatever you're modeling is going to be reflected back. And in the book, I interviewed Don Fox, who's a retired CEO of Firehouse Subs. Great, just a wonderful leader, icon in that industry, quick service. And he said something that I write about in the book that just stuck with me. So cool is that your team's ability to watch you will always exceed your ability to watch them. There are more eyeballs on you than you could ever put on them. And so it's just this reminder that you're always being watched. Every move, everything you say. So that to me is kind of the no bad day policy is really, really key in those times when things are rough.
Yeah.
Because that's when you're really getting looked at.
I loved, I feel like I need to read this one part that I highlighted about this.
Sure.
When you say I was grateful for this paragraph. The no bad day policy isn't about denying the existence of problems or pretending everything's perfect. It's about choosing how you respond to the challenges and that inevitably arise. It's about being the kind of leader who inspires and energizes rather than one who drains and discourage. It's an energy thing, like an intentional energy thing. I will say though, this is my one question on the policy. Is there are you potentially missing out on the opportunity to have your employees like recognize that you're a human too? Like, are you letting them in on what's going on the days where let's face it, you are having a bad day? Like, is part of the no day policy keeping that and just like keeping it to yourself? Or are you like in the huddle saying, hey, guys, I just feel like I need to be human. This is happening to me. I'm going to do my very best to not let it affect my energy and things like that. Like, is that part of the policy, or do you say or you like only keep your inner
No,
circle
I would
managers like in the
say
loop?
if you talk to, it's a great question. I would say you talk to anyone that ever worked for me, they probably know everything about me. I
Okay.
really prided myself on being transparent. And so the no bad day policy is not this, let me like just put on a front and everything's perfect and I'm going to pretend everything is perfect. No, it's actually quite the opposite. It's like, I'm in this with you. This is real. But we're going to choose to find the path forward. We're going to choose to be positive. We're going to choose to find the good in this. But no, I definitely, I think, and I get into this some, like great leaders, like there's a human side of them. I had some of those GMs where I was like, does this guy like, does he just like, just do this all day long? Does he ever not wear a suit? Like, like
Yeah.
that, and that mystical, like, what are they like outside of work? And I would probably say I was probably a little too like, open sometimes. Everybody knew a little bit about Ryan. So yeah, I don't think it's that.
Yeah. You can still be human and
Yeah.
vulnerable and open
Yeah.
and letting people into the things going on in your world without letting
Yeah.
the like negative energy
Yeah.
drain and discourage the team.
Yeah.
If anything, I would think that letting your team see both of those together
Yes.
is incredibly powerful for them, so that when they show up, because when they show up and they've got things going on in the world, because they've seen, oh, our general manager, they've had bad
Yeah.
days, and I've seen how when he talks about it, he frames it like this. Oh, you're giving them permission and the tools to do that too, to say, be
I
human, come
love
to
that
work,
word,
but
vulnerable. In fact, I've thought a couple of times, like, I could write a book called The Vulnerable Leader. Like, I
do it.
think there's so much power in that vulnerability piece of letting them in to see that you are real and you are dealing with the same things that they deal with. It's just really how you deal with it.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great third book. It looked great on the shelf right up there. It looked great. All right, I'm going to wrap it up with, I have one final question for you.
Okay.
The book came out, what, June 10th? When did it come out? Like a month ago?
June 10th. Yeah.
Okay, June 10th. I was right. Wow, I'm
Job.
shocked
Yeah.
that I am confidently wrong a lot, but that I was confidently right. I'm curious, do you have a favorite piece of feedback or review or something you've heard from someone who's read it?
It's similar to my first book, Thanks for Coming In Today. What I find most rewarding, encouraging, all those things are when folks read it and two reactions. One, it's affirmation for how they operate, and it's like, okay, I feel like you gave a voice to how I feel. I love that.
It's empowering.
And then the other is just like, this was encouraging. And I kind of think said something like this along these lines earlier in the talk, but I don't believe that I am sharing this new like philosophy, like,
Yeah.
but it's so real. It's so powerful. I've seen it time and time in hotel turnover after hotel turnover. And unfortunately, just not a lot of people embrace it. And I think that when I hear people read it and say, wow, like this is simple. I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is actually rewarding, because it's like, yeah, that's my mission, is to level up the frontline experience for employees around the world. And if I can have one reader who's managing one person read it and go and make that person's job a little better because they read the book, I've done my job.
A piece of encouragement for you is, I understand where you're coming from about how, the principles in the book aren't anything like crazy new and original.
Yeah.
That depends on who's reading it. Because
True.
I think specifically because you have written this for Frontline Teams, there are a lot of frontline team managers who may pick this up, and they didn't even know leadership books were a thing. So I would I say that as a word of encouragement, because I have to tell myself that too. Sometimes it's like, wow, am I even like coming up with anything new here? Well, no, it may not be like there's 60,000 leadership books on Amazon.
Yeah.
Right. But it's new to the person who's reading it. Also, the values in the stories.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Some of the principles may not necessarily be new, but the stories and how, because your stories are unique to you. And so, and you never know what one of the stories in there is the thing that's going to resonate with people.
Yeah. 100%.